Pre-March 2020. What was your life like?
If I'm honest, hell. People assign genders to them, but then gender is a social construct.
Have you had time to process what happened to you in your childhood?
It was because she couldn't support me. She told me when we first started that she could never be with a woman.
What addiction did you battle?
So I'm an alcoholic.
Who was the first person you spoke to and what did you say to them?
So the first person I spoke to was actually your former boss.
Did your daughter finally accept you?
It broke her supremely. I'm an award-winning published poet, published photographer and a published artist. That's who I am. I wasn't drinking to have fun now. I was drinking to black out.
What does being a woman mean to you?
So I don't feel safe living in this country. Trans women can't get pregnant. It is very unlikely that a trans woman can get pregnant. As I said, this motion does nothing for trans women.
Welcome to Unbroken, my story with Tisha. This is where we talk about failures, challenges, and the lessons that shape us. We explore resilience, inner strength, and growth. Today's episode is a special one. We are talking with a transgender woman about her life, her journey, and the moments that shaped who she is today. This isn't about headlines or labels. It's about listening, learning, and understanding the human story behind the word transgender. Before we begin, a quick note. This conversation is rooted in respect. Everyone's experience of gender is personal, and no single story represents an entire community. Please welcome Melissa. Melissa, welcome and thank you for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Would you like to start by introducing yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Melissa Poulton. My pronouns are she, they. I'm a woman with transgender experience and I'm really looking forward to this podcast.
As am I. So Melissa, if we start at your gender journey, what does that look like?
So I'm what is referred to as, I was assigned male at birth, is the term that's used today. My gender journey is something that's important to me. Yeah, it's just getting to know about who, as a person, who I am. And that is my journey.
Of course. When was the first time you realised or you've understood yourself as you are?
So hindsight is a great thing. Hindsight is brilliant. So I kind of noticed something during the pandemic. Stuck inside, working from home. Everyone was looking inwards, weren't they? And that's what I did. I looked inwards. I don't like the term coming out because I didn't come out. I accepted who I am. There was many opportunities to accept who I am, obviously before then, but A, I didn't have the confidence, and B, I just wasn't sure of myself like I was when I eventually did accept myself on the 24th of May 2020, what is also known as Panvisibility Day.
Okay.
So I accepted myself as non-binary and a lot of things kind of went from there. It opened so many different doors and I wouldn't be here without accepting who I am.
Let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
So pre-pandemic, pre-March 2020, what was your life like?
If I'm honest, hell.
When you say hell, what do you mean? Were you married? Did you have children?
I have a daughter and I was in a long-term relationship. I knew there was something wrong. I knew there was something different about me, but I just could not put my finger on it, if that makes sense. So at that time, there's been many opportunities to do something about it, to find out more about myself. I just didn't know where to look. It wasn't really advertised you need to go this way, you need to do that. In 2015, I was more interested in clothes, and that was it. Clothes was just, to me, clothes are not gendered. Clothes are just clothes. People assign genders to them, but then gender is a social construct. So it is literally, I thought I was wearing clothes, not what wasn't meant to be for me. I just didn't feel right in men clothes, but that's kind of what's really kind of was a turning point where I needed to look more into who I am.
So you said 2015,
Yeah.
you were interested in clothes. So what I'm assuming from here is you mean you liked to wear women's clothes. Did you at that time not think, oh, why am I feeling like this? Or did your partner not say anything to you? Or I'm assuming you had a daughter by then.
Yeah.
Did she say anything to you?
No. So I kind of just kept it hidden.
Okay.
I think a lot of pre-transitional people keep it hidden until they know more about themselves, to be sure. My daughter's mum, she knew some of it, but I just couldn't really. I think it took me a few more years to actually to admit it to myself.
Was that difficult to do?
Yeah, it was difficult to do. I think everyone not necessarily about transitioning, but everyone kind of gets to a point where they need to try something new, they need to try something, be so different. And that was me trying to be something different. And I couldn't tell nothing was wrong with me, but that's what I felt like.
You felt differently to how, I suppose, the society expects somebody in your assigned gender to feel and behave. You felt different to it. Do you assign any of how you were feeling to any part of your upbringing at all, or any people you mixed with at all?
No.
Or was it just you from inside who felt?
It's from inside. So I've always been centre-right as such, not just politically, but as a person. Work pays. That was always how I was brought up. So it was just literally that side of things. So I literally worked. When we 2 years after getting together. So I think my daughter was 3 weeks old, and we were made homeless. We were given a council flat or council house, whatever you like to call it, and we kind of just built ourselves up from there, going back in further, if you like. So my upbringing with before I met my partner was traumatic, to say the least. So I'm a survivor of child neglect, child abuse, and I don't let that hold me back. Child abuse is something that I cannot stand.
Have you had time to process what happened to you in your childhood? Have you dealt with that pain?
Yes. So beginning of 2021, I received counselling for the first time. Basically what happened was my brother died of leukemia at the age of, he would have been 6 in September. He died in March. I was 4 in May actually. I was blamed for his death. It was just so, I thought my life was just as normal as everyone else's, and it turns out that it wasn't. It was a lot of abuse, and
from your parents,
from the people who were meant to look after me. Yes.
How old were you before you were able to leave that life behind?
So I met my daughter's mum when I was 19. We were together for 18 and a half years until we finally called it quits at the end of 2022.
Was that because of you embracing who you were?
Yes. It was because she couldn't support me. She told me when we first started that she could never be with a woman. When I started to go down the route that I went down, I knew that our relationship was coming to an end.
Which, to be fair, is fair enough. She has the right to choose for herself as well.
Exactly.
Who she can be with and cannot. So I understand. So Melissa, tell me, this transition, would you describe that journey to me in your own words? And what did that mean for you emotionally, socially, medically?
Transition can be anything. It's not just a sex transition.
Of course.
And that's how I see it. So there's a lot of transitioning through obviously physical appearance, through identity, through addiction, through well-being, through so many different transitions as such. And no matter who you are, you transition. You get older. It's the most simplest transition you can do.
Yes, and everybody does.
And everyone does. So it's not just, and this is what this podcast is about. Yes. It's not just about someone who's going through transition as in gender reassignment or anything like that, but it is also for anyone who's going through something and they need to get out and need to change. They, recently I found the story of the hungry caterpillar so important in my life, like the hungry caterpillar did, like finding all the bad stuff, all the sweets and all the, all that sort of thing. Keep on munching, and obviously we get upset stomachs and stuff like that. And then we, that's kind of like all the abuse, the trauma, the addictions, the everything like that. And then we find this good leaf, this thing that will help us onto the next stage. And once we've eaten that, our stomach kinds of rests, and then we wake up as this fantastic, beautiful butterfly. And that is so important in any transition. And I've been sharing this story with so many people about me and how, for me personally, and fighting addiction, fighting pain, fighting loss, fighting so much. And it's only now that I get to be this gorgeous butterfly and just fly around.
What addiction did you battle?
So I'm an alcoholic. I've been an alcoholic now probably longer than I cared to imagine. But with everything what happened last year with masking, because that's what it did. Alcohol masks how I was feeling, what I was doing. I was kind of didn't realise until I got some help. I am an alcoholic, proud alcoholic, but I'm not drinking. I'm 29 weeks without at this point.
Well done. Are you proud of yourself?
I'm very proud of myself. I wrote a poem on World Mental Health Day in October, and it was my 13th week of obviously being without alcohol. The last line, it says, "Alcohol makes me imperfect and I just want to be me. I'm glad to not be drinking."
So, I want to go back to something. You said you're a proud alcoholic.
Yeah.
Do you mean to say you feel safe in yourself, that you are okay to admit that you have been alcoholic and that you have battled that? Or you're proud of the fact that you were alcoholic?
I'm proud that I was. I am. Alcohol and any addiction doesn't go away.
Okay.
As long as we're beating it, we're fine. Yes, I'm proud to say that I'm beating it. I've had many opportunities to drink over the last 29 weeks, but I haven't, and that's what I'm proud of.
In this journey that you've had so far,
Yeah.
the gender journey, the transition journey,
Yeah.
who has helped you the most in this?
My chosen family has helped me probably the most in this.
Who is your chosen family?
My chosen family is, I'm referred to as Mummy Goose of the chosen family. Hence my goose tattoo on my arm.
You have some amazing tattoos, and I would ask you at the end to show all of us what they are. But okay.
And my partner in gay crime, they are a fantastic drag artist, non-binary drag artist. They are my BFF. They have helped me so much. So I have 6 children, and I have other people who are slowly joining. I'm proud of how supportive they've been, especially one of my children, who we refer to as baby, but they're actually the oldest out of the children.
How old are these kids?
So the youngest one is 18 and the oldest one is 28.
Oh, wow, okay.
No, I take that back, 29. So yes, they see me as like, they know that they can trust me. They know that they know that I will have have their back, and that's what family should be. Family should look after each other, should have their back, should have your back. And literally, when I was going through the pain and everything, what happened like the beginning of last year and stuff like that, it was them who were looking out for me. They're the ones who were saying, "We think you have an alcohol problem." It was them who noticed it before I did. Before I realised, and they noticed that I was masking a lot.
Before I go to what happened last year, I want to ask another question, please.
Yeah.
So, when you realised during the pandemic, in May, I can't remember what date, did you say 20th of May or something? Yeah. Who was the first person you spoke to, and what did you say to them? And what was their reaction?
So the first person I spoke to was actually your former boss. Was the first person who I spoke to about it. So George Floyd had just been murdered in America. The managing director for the company that we used to work for put out a fantastic note saying no matter who you are, you're always welcome. That was just so that gave me the confidence to be myself.
And what was their reaction? What did they say to you?
They were so supportive.
Were you nervous or scared at all before you... And were you trying to just gather that courage to come out and speak to them?
I felt more myself out of the family home. I had more confidence in myself out the family home. It was like, yeah, that's kind of, that's what it was. So I did have more confidence in myself to seek help, to ask for help. And it was just, that was kind of that moment where I just thought, I need to do it now or I will just keep myself hidden.
Did you not for once think about how this will affect your partner or more importantly perhaps your daughter?
I didn't, if I'm honest. I thought I just wanted to be happy. I wanted to be myself, and unfortunately I was more myself out of the family home than I was in it. That kind of led me to lead a double life until I managed to get the confidence to actually say this is who I am. And this is how I want to be treated.
That's something very important you've said.
Yeah.
You were leading a double life.
Yeah.
And that must have been exhausting.
It was very exhausting.
How old was your daughter when you decided to accept yourself?
15, 16.
Did you tell them after you told the person at work?
I didn't until until 18 months later. That's how much of a double life I was leading. I was getting myself unwell. Because of the constant
switching between the two roles, switching between the two lives.
And I don't get me wrong, I changed my name with them, but I just didn't go any further. I suppose I started wearing more brightly coloured clothes, neutral colours, not so masculine and not so feminine. But it wasn't until after I changed my name to Melissa that I kind of knew more about who I was.
I will come back to what happened last year, but I've got a couple more questions before then. Did your daughter finally accept you?
I'm going to tell you something that I've only told a handful of people. She sent me a message just after 12 o'clock on New Year's Day this year. And she said that when I left the home, it broke her. What people don't realise, that it also broke me. I was living who I wanted to be. I wanted to be happy, but it also broke me. And the first thing I did when I got into the car, I just cried. Like a lot of the time leading up to that moment in my life, I literally would get in my car and just drive just so that I wasn't at home. And last year I actually apologized to my daughter's mum for doing that, because it wasn't just my journey, it was their journey as well. And I apologized literally for doing that, because I literally just walked out. It broke her, so it broke me.
You know, Melissa, you keep saying you found yourself.
Yeah.
You became okay with who you were. You're happy with who you are.
Yeah.
Who are you?
I'm an award-winning published poet, published photographer, and a published artist. That's who I am. Back then, I didn't know who I was. I know I was Melissa. I could be her. I can be whoever I wanted her to be. But back then, I didn't know who she was. And I was still figuring out. So
coming back to last year, you've referred to last year a few times now, and you said that was quite painful and probably alcohol had taken over your life.
Yeah.
What had happened last year?
So I was out with a friend of mine, went karaoke for the first time in my life, loved it, absolutely brilliant night. On the way back home from the night out, where I was staying was like an 8-minute walk from where I've been out. I took the safest route possible home, and I was sexually assaulted.
Oh.
And literally 50 metres from my best friend's house. And it was kind of really changed how I've viewed society, and how I viewed myself in society, because there's a saying that they can always tell the difference between a woman and a trans woman, but obviously this person couldn't tell. I think it took 5 attempts for him to realise that I wasn't playing his game. He touched private parts of me, grabbed me by the wrist and tried to get me to touch him. It was quite horrific, and the best way I know how to get over something like that, or anything I find, is just write it down. So I literally, the first thing I did when I got in was report it. I reported it to the police. I sobered up quite quickly, as you can probably imagine.
We're making light of it, but it's a serious issue.
It is a serious issue, and went through hell after that. I wasn't drinking to have fun now. I was drinking to black out. I shouldn't be here, because I put my body through so much trauma afterwards. You thought I would have learnt to look after it, but I didn't.
Really sorry to hear this, Melissa, that you had to go through this. But it's a hard reality of everyone's life, of society, of the world that we live in, that these things do happen. They happen pretty regularly, and they happen to a lot of people out there, isn't it? I'm sorry you had to go through this.
Since then, I went through EMDR last year. It's a form of therapy with a lot of light. And I had that last year. And up until the session that we covered for the assault, I always believed it was my fault. And I have the reasons, because I didn't take my phone, I drank too much, I didn't have my alarm with me, was wearing a short dress. Everything what most women say why they blame themselves for. And that it wasn't until EMDR to realise that it wasn't my fault. But I still couldn't blame him. I had psychotherapy, and we talked about consent on one of the sessions. And it was only until then that I realised that it was his fault.
You were the victim.
I was the victim. 2024 was a lot about grounding from what happened to me in 2023. But 2025 was a lot more making the foundations a lot more solid. So I learned how to be better, have more grounding techniques for myself. And that's why it kind of was such an important 2025, well, especially the last 6 months of 2025 was so important.
What had happened in 2023?
So in 2023, I was standing as the Green Party candidate for the general election in Bromsgrove, and the former Member of Parliament for Redditch decided to attack me for being who I am online. And I made the 6 o'clock news. I made news all over the world. You know, wherever there was a news outlet, I was there. Well, I wasn't there. My picture was.
Yeah.
I never got a say. I mentioned it briefly at the beginning of December, but I never really got my say of what happened to me. And this year, I'm finally getting a chance to tell my story. A lot of things happened to me in 2023, good and bad. I'm not going to say it's not all negative. I started HRT. It's not going to be an easy read. It's a lot about rejection, a lot about hurt, a lot of suicide ideation.
What is not going to be an easy read?
The memoir.
You haven't mentioned that before.
Oh, okay. Yes, so Walking Through the Forest is out in November, the 2nd of November, and it's literally going to be it's a read that needs to be done, because it is my story, it's my side of the events of what happened. I met some amazing people and some not so amazing, but I get to tell my side of what happened. I always believe everything happens for a reason. Poetry is that reason, and that's why I say I'm a award-winning published poet.
Congratulations. So, Melissa, you say that you're a transgender woman, or you're a woman with a transgender experience. Yeah. What does being a woman mean to you? I
love this. To me, it's who I am. But someone said, someone who has to cover their drinks up when they're out in the bar. That's what a woman. That's what a woman is. But to me, being a woman is who I am. It's my existence. It's my everyday. It's basically my makeup. It's not my on my face inside makeup. It's who I am, and that's what being a woman is to me.
Why could you not live the way you want to live, do the things you are doing, be the person you are, but in your old self? Why go through this?
I was never happy. As you can tell, I've got the biggest grin on my face.
You just been smiling since we've met.
I'm so happy to live my life, live my truth. We're always told to live our truth, live our best life. Why would I want to do that as that?
As something that you are not.
Yeah.
How has your relationship evolved with people around you? And that could be your family, friends at work. So people who knew you as your old self and now you're living as your true self. What's that been like?
A lot of people have noticed I've stopped drinking, how happy I am, how I'm just literally supporting them. But I needed to do something. It's not just the drinking. I always believed that you should be the best version of yourself. And I can't preach that. I can't help people to do that if I'm not living the best version of myself. And that's why I did what I had to do.
But how did the people around you change their approach to you, their behavior to you? And this would be in your daily living. So at work, for example, you would be one person and then over a period of time, perhaps you would have transitioned into Melissa.
Yeah.
How did that change their perception of you and how they treated you? And maybe your other relatives or some of your other friends?
A lot of people have accepted who I am. The people who haven't really have kind of, are not in my life. I mean that in the nicest way possible.
Yeah.
They just literally just not followed me on my journey. I get now the people who I do have in my life. They are people who have supported and still continue to support me. And my team, my chosen family, the support that I've had with like the addiction, with the assault, getting over the assault, they're still part of my day-to-day journey. And I'm so glad that they are, because they've seen me literally pull my eyes out. And they've still stood by me. I don't think I'm in touch with anyone pre-transition, apart from obviously my daughter and her mother. That's how I like it, because I want people in my life who are going to support me
and accept you for who
and accept me for who I am.
Absolutely understandable. So Melissa, before we started recording, we discussed some of the other experiences you had as well. Is there anything else that happened in the previous years that you would like to talk to us about?
Yeah, so I do. There is something really, really important that I do need to say. I overdosed last year, not to end my life. I've done that previously, but this one wasn't literally to end my life. It was more to do with I needed help. Went through EMDR. They offered me CBT. I had CBT done in the first wave of the pandemic, and it just did not, for me. It didn't work. CBT does work, but not for me. And I went through talking
therapy.
But it was with a counsellor rather than with the NHS. And it was just, that really helped me understanding my childhood and stuff like that. But last year, I was staying over at my best friend's house, and I literally took about 20 odd tablets, and they don't know how they done it, but they managed to get me to the hospital. I didn't want to end my life. That wasn't an end of life kind of thing. It was just literally get help.
A cry for help.
It was a cry for help, and it obviously affected them as well. And so obviously it had a negative impact on our relationship as well. We've slowly built that back up.
Why is it important for people to know that you took so many pills and you were in the hospital and that was your cry for help?
Because I'm here. I'm here to tell my story. As we say, it's not just a transition story. It is the addiction story. It is a weight loss story. I used to couldn't breathe 10 minutes, go 10 minutes without needing to rest because of how big I was. And I needed to, as I say, I need to be the best version of myself so I can help other people. And so people need to know that even if you're fighting addiction, if you're on the loose end, just ask for help and just speak to people.
Yes.
And that's what I did. Literally, I spoke to people. I spoke to an alcohol place, and they literally helped me. I think the first time I went in there, I was a nervous wreck, because I do not. One thing about me, I do not know how people are going to perceive me. it's kind of more, it's worse, if that makes sense, because there's a lot of bad reputation. People just want to stir up hatred towards the trans community. I do not know how I'm going to be perceived. They made me feel welcome, they made me feel relaxed so that I can open up.
Do you feel, being a trans woman or a woman with trans experiences, do you feel you are obligated to, or do you feel pressured to speak on the behalf of other people who are going through similar things?
I speak for myself. I don't speak for any other person. I feel that if they want to talk about their journey, they talk about their journey, no matter what the journey is. I'm doing it to help encourage other people who might need some support, might need some help. That's why I do it. I believe education is the most important thing possible, because the more people are educated, the more they realise that we're just human beings. We just want to be ourselves. Like you, if you want to be who you want to be, why can't we be who we want to be? And that is what it is. And it's...
Yeah. What does safety mean for you?
So I don't feel safe living in this country. Trans people are attacked on a daily basis, more so than women, but because they know nothing is going to happen, they don't report it. If you do get attacked for being who you are, please report it. Even if they don't listen, you've still reported it. And do it online, so that at least there's a trail.
So safety is about having the freedom to be yourself, expressing yourself how you wish to express yourself, and not get attacked by anybody, physically, emotionally, verbally, mentally.
And that's what it is. I want to live how I want to live, and
be respected for who you are.
And be. The last line of my award-winning poem is, dignity and respect is something that is all we ever wanted, is all we want. That is what it is. All we just want is dignity and respect. And because, quite frankly, that's all anyone wants.
Anyone wants, yes. Melissa, tell me, when you were going through this journey and through the transition, and you still are, was there anything that you thought, this is going to be one hard thing, but actually turned out to be quite easy for you to navigate, and vice versa? So
I think public toilets is a problem. I personally haven't been attacked in the toilet for being who I am, but I know some trans people who have. But then the majority of people who have been attacked in toilets are cisgendered people. So people whose identity matches what they were signed at birth, basically. And when they say they're coming for trans rights, they're not really yes, they are affecting trans rights, but they're more affecting cis women's rights than they are trans rights, if that makes sense. I will give you a prime example. You had a news reporter on a national news channel about pregnant people, and then she changed it to women. By changing that from pregnant people to pregnant women, she thought she was being clever and excluding trans women. Trans women can't get pregnant. It is very unlikely that a trans woman can get pregnant. She thought she was being clever. By saying trans people, it includes non-binary people. It includes trans men, because they can still get pregnant, and it can include girls, because girls are not women. And by saying people instead of women,
saying women instead of people,
it just excluded a whole bunch of people.
So if anybody is going through this kind of a transition in their life, a young person, what message would you give to them?
Only come out if it's safe for you to do so. Only tell people if it's safe for you to do so. Because obviously we don't know how other individuals may act, but they need to make sure they're in a safe space to do it.
That's really well said, and something that not a lot of people would think about. I didn't think that was a message you would give out.
Yes, be yourself, by all means. I think adults can do it a lot better, but children need to find that one person, like adults do, where they can be themselves with. And that is kind of the most important thing. Safety.
Do you think there's a myth people have about LGBTQ plus people?
And it's actually a great question. A lot of people don't understand attraction, identity. So, for example, lesbian, bi, gay, that's kind of attraction. Pan is also attraction. Being ace or asexual is also an attraction. But then you've got identity, so non-binary, trans, and knowing the difference between the two is so important, because the majority of trans people are not straight or not heterosexual. There are a lot of trans people who are lesbian, a lot of trans people who are gay, A lot of trans people who use queer, trans people who use pan, for example. So there is a lot of difference between the two. But because I suppose it's easier to label us all together.
Is there anything you regret in your life, Melissa?
I would love to have started my journey sooner, but I believe I wasn't ready. I'm glad that I have my daughter. I love my daughter to bits, so I don't regret starting sooner, but I wish I did, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What have you learned about yourself? And when I say yourself, I mean your self-worth.
I get told how amazing I am every single day. I wish I was told this like decades ago. My partner, who's absolutely fantastic, she tells me how amazing I am every single day. And I spoke about this group session when I was doing the addiction recovery. And I said, because there was what would you tell yourself? Or what would you change about yourself? And I was thinking, I wouldn't. I love where I am now, because I do get the praise. I do get the love that I need. So my self-worth is quite important, and I get told how amazing I am. And I feel that everyone needs to be told that at least once a day, because it just does something to you. It gives you a confidence that you never knew you had. And for me, going through the trauma of my childhood, I have that. I now have that in my life. I get told how amazing I am every single day, and I'm awesome. All these powerful words. So my self-worth is quite high. Is quite high.
Well done. Especially from how you have come to this level.
Yeah.
And you were suicidal at one point, and you were crying for help at one point, and now look where you are.
Exactly, and that's what it boils down to. It literally is having that person who will support you no matter what.
I'm very happy for you, Melissa. I'm very happy for you. So tell me about this cup you have brought here.
So I'm the first ever recipient of the Benjamin Stephania Trophy in Worcestershire. I applied for it because I want to get, as I've done this podcast, I want to get voices that are unique in different areas. You know, I tell my story, and that's why I applied for this. So I read my poem out on the day, a wonderful poem called "Could You Walk a Mile in Our Shoes?" What, for me, intersectionality is so important, that we all fit the 9 characteristics, whether it's age, whether it's marriage, whether it's religion, whether it's gender identity, whether it's sex, all these different ones, we all fit there. So I wanted to do something based on that, and obviously telling from a queer perspective, there's 9 stanzas and there's 9 characteristics.
Wonderful. So before we end, there are 2 things, Melissa. The first thing is that I would like to talk about your tattoos. So what tattoos do you have?
So basically, the top one is the trans flag, and it's got she pronoun in. The next one is the non-binary flag, what's got the they pronoun in. The next one is the lesbian flag, what says it's got the her pronoun in. And next is the pan flag, what has got the them pronoun in. And these are the 4 flags that I have that represent me as an individual. My next one is a pentacle. Next is Daisy, is a daisy for Sophie.
Yeah.
So she is the close friend who I lost. She sadly died on my first Melissa Day. To remember her by, I've got that. My next one is my goose. So because I was sent to hospital, or because I went to hospital, my partner in gay crime, their partner, they call me a silly goose for doing it. I have my star sign, so I'm a Taurus, and that is actually the stars for it. I'm a supporter of Northampton Town, and one of their last line of their chant is "Big city lights don't bother me, Northampton Town I'm proud to be." So that's what's there.
Lovely.
And then they didn't burn witches, they burnt women. What is so true.
Yeah.
And I'm getting my next one for celebrating 6 months without alcohol. Is performing as my therapy. I'm also getting a butterfly to obviously
Beautiful.
represent
The journey from the caterpillar to the butterfly.
There we go.
Very symbolic. And the last thing before we end today, Melissa,
Okay.
is that I ask all my guests to leave me a positive message. It doesn't need to be for me specifically. It could be for anybody in the world, the wider cosmic, anybody really,
Yeah.
or for your chosen family.
I say this a lot, and I'm going to say it now. Keep being you, keep being amazing, and keep being wonderful, because that is what it is. That's the positive message that I would like everyone to take away from
Wonderful.
this podcast is keep being themselves.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I know that this is the last thing we do, Melissa. However, I do want to ask you another question.
Go on.
What are some of the easily accessible resources people can go to if they want to read up about it or they need support for themselves?
For young people, it's Mermaids. They've got a great resource on their website and on their social media feeds. There's also the LGBT Foundation. Is a great source of more adults. But it's just literally just go and find someone who you can talk to about being yourself. I think that's the biggest takeaway, because as long as it's safe to do so, they will support you.
Yeah. Wonderful. Melissa, thank you so much for coming here today and sharing your story. I hope somebody who is hearing it has taken some encouragement from it, some motivation from it, and some learnings from it as well.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I wish you all the very best for everything that's coming your way.
Thank you.
We are incredibly grateful to Melissa for sharing her story with openness and honesty. Conversations like this remind us that understanding doesn't come from assumptions. It comes from listening. If something in today's episode challenged you, moved you, or taught you something new, we encourage you to sit with that. Growth often starts there. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and share it with someone who values thoughtful conversations. If you have a story to share and want to take part, please scan the QR code on the screen. I will see you in the next episode, and until then, stay unbroken.